זה נוגע, מה הלב שלך לא מספר, כמו שקיעה אני בים טובע, כמה זמן עבר ומי סופר, מאחורי האהבה שלנו היה גם טוב וגם לא הסתדר, תראי עכשיו בסוף לאן הגענו, הכל נשטף ואיך הזמן עובר, אל תגלי לי מה הולך אצלך, מה הולך אצלך, ובלילות מי מגלה את הגוף שלך, נותן לך הכל, גם חלומות שלא חלמנו, אז רק תתני לי עוד דקה שלא אשכח, שכחתי לשאול, את לתמיד או סתם הולכת, את סתם הולכת. אז איפה את? האינסטינקט קורא לך, הוא לא אחד כזה שישקר, יופי זה היום נהיה מפתח, לצדיקים גרמת להתעבר, ואיך עכשיו שבדיוק הגענו, צללנו שוב אבל עמוק יותר, בלי אוויר פגוש אותך למעלה, אני לא אחד כזה שמוותר, אל תגלי לי מה הולך אצלך, מה הולך אצלך, ובלילות מי מגלה את הגוף שלך, נותן לך הכל, גם חלומות שלא חלמנו, אז רק תתני לי עוד דקה שלא אשכח, שכחתי לשאול, את לתמיד או סתם הולכת, את סתם תגידי שבלב שלך לא יסתדר, שבלילות הוא מגלה אותך ומסתבר, שבקלות איתו את נרדמת, ובלילות מי מגלה את הגוף שלך, נותן לך הכל, גם חלומות שלא חלמנו, אז רק תתני לי עוד דקה שלא נמות, שכחתי לשאול, את לתמיד או סתם הולכת, ובלילות מי מגלה את הגוף שלך, נותן לך הכל, גם חלומות שלא חלמנו, אז רק תתני לי עוד דקה שלא אשכח, שכחתי לשאול, את לתמיד או סתם הולכת, את סתם הולכת. והיא אומרת לי ככה אהבה, כמו פרחים היא לא צריכה יותר מדי, אולי תיתן לה אור וקצת תשקה אותה חיוך, אבל תחשוב עליי, אני רוצה אותה אבל יודע בתוכי שהיא שלי והיא קצת שונה.
Friends and colleagues, please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes.
זה לא כולה, איזה עולם, איזה עולם, איזה עולם, זה לא פשוט להיות איתה אל מול כולם, וכמה כוח יש לה ליד בן אדם, איזה עולם, איזה עולם, איזה עולם, איזה עולם, זה לא פשוט להיות איתה אל מול כולם, וכמה כוח יש לה ליד בן אדם, איזה עולם. והיא יודעת כמה שניסינו המרחק לא עשה לה טוב, היא ראתה בי גבר שייתן לה משפחה שידע לאהוב, שתיעלם אם אהיה חלש, ואני לא צריך דבר אם יש לי אותה. אני זה לא כולם. איזה עולם, איזה עולם, איזה עולם. זה לא פשוט להיות איתה אל מול כולם. וכמה כוח יש עליי הבן אדם. איזה עולם, איזה עולם, איזה עולם, איזה עולם. זה לא פשוט להיות איתה אל מול כולם. וכמה כוח יש עליי הבן אדם. איזה עולם. איזה עולם, איזה עולם, איזה עולם. זה לא פשוט להיות איתה אל מול כולם. וכמה כוח יש לה עליי הבן אדם. איזה עולם. והיא אומרת לי ככה אהבה, כמו פרחים היא לא צריכה יותר מדי.
והעיר שקטה והשמיים התכסו בלטה עד התהום. זו כמעט הייתה שעת בין הארבעים של חיי, אבל את באת לי פתאום, באת אליי פתאום, ואמרת לי בואי, אלוהים שומר מקום בקצה היום, לנשים כמוך, לתמימות כמוני, כמעט שקעתי, אבל את באת לי פתאום. ועבר כבר זמן מאז התחלתי במסע שלי עד כאן, אין חרטות, כי היה מעונן, וכבר כמעט נגמלתי מלחלום, אבל את באת לי פתאום, באת אליי פתאום, ואמרת לי בואי, אלוהים שומר מקום בקצה היום, לנשים כמוך, לטיפשות כמוני, כמעט שקעתי, אבל את באת לי פתאום. והעיר שקטה והשמיים התכסו בעלתה עד התהום, זו כמעט הייתה.
Please take your seats and silence your mobile devices. Our program is about to begin.
October 7th, 2023. 251 people taken hostage. We refuse to let them be forgotten. We turned grief into action. Pain into purpose. We mobilized. We marched. We never stopped. Israeli soldiers risked everything to save them. And finally, all the living hostages are home. Families reunited. Lives saved. Hope fulfilled. This day came because our community never stopped fighting, never stopped praying, never stopped believing they would come home. We honor those we lost and those yet to be laid to rest. Their memory guides us. But today, we breathe a sigh of relief. Grateful for our global community that made this moment possible. This is the power of Jewish unity. Even after the darkest night, we always find our way home. Together.
Please join us in warmly welcoming former hostage Noah Argamani and recently released former hostages Avi Natan Or, Guy Gilboa Dalal, and Aviatar David.
Good afternoon. My name is Nora Germani, and it's really a great honor to be here with you today. And this time, Avinatan, Eviatar, and Guy stayed in here with me. We all dreamed about this moment for more than 2 years. Now, our hearts are whole again. And we are finally can breathe again. On October 7, 2023, Avinatan and I went to the Nova Music Festival, a festival of love, peace, and community. And as you know, on that terrible October 7 morning, we wake up to a nightmare. We were attacked by Hamas terrorists. We tried to hide, but they found us. They threw me into the motorcycle. I screamed to Avinatan because I didn't want us to separate. But suddenly, I found myself in the middle of Gaza. That was the last time that I saw Avinatan. For months, I didn't know if he's still kidnapped or murdered. In captivity, I asked about him again and again and again. But there is no answer, and I was afraid to know the answer. I lived in a fear every single day. I didn't want the guards to suddenly lose control and kill me. I saw it happen in front of my eyes. In captivity, I saw two of my friends, Yossi Sharabi and Itai Sbirsky, brutally murdered while I survived. On June 8th, the Israeli soldiers brought into my room and said, "Noah, we are here to bring you home now." That moment, those words saved my life. My My first thought was my mother, Liora, who was battling cancer. When I returned home, my wish came true, and so did hers. But 3 weeks later, she passed away. She was my rock. It's still hard every day, but I thank God we had a chance to say goodbye. Standing here with you is nothing short of a miracle made possible by the brave Israeli soldiers who risked everything, by Arnon Mora, who gave his life to save mine. He is my hero. May his memory be a blessing. Since that day, I have dedicated my life to get our hostages out of hell. Today, I see so many familiar faces of people who stood with us since day one. I want to thank the people who made this final hostage deal possible. Everyone involved, especially Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and President Trump. For believing that saving lives matter more of all. Your leadership brought hope back into our family's life, and I will forever be grateful. We are still waiting for 3 more hostages to come back home. We will never forget about them, and we will leave no one behind. For so long, my biggest wish was simple, to see Avinatan again. And now, to know that he's alive. And now, I want to thank for a strength of many. That wish has come true. Avinatan is home and standing here beside me. The road ahead will be challenging, and we still have a lot to overcome. But at least we are now together, at home, with each other. And now we can finally heal again, together. It's a living proof that hope, even in the darkest place, can survive. I would like to remember and be entirely grateful for the soldiers who gave their lives, for the wounded, for their families, and to you, the entire Jewish people in the diaspora, for standing with us in those terrible times. Our strength is in our unity. And with that, I have the great and pleasure to welcome Avinatan Or.
you, Noah. My name is Avinatan Or. I am 32 years old, one of 7 siblings, the second oldest. As you all know, on October 7, I was kidnapped with Noah from the Nova Music Festival. I spent 738 days underground in Gaza in Hamas captivity, alone, chained, without light, and without food. I was one of the last hostage to come home. All of my captivity was in the tunnels, alone. For more than 2 years, I saw no sunlight. Days went by without anyone speaking to me. I didn't hear my own language. No one called my name. The hardest part was not knowing anything. Not what day it was, not what was happening in the world, and not whether the people I loved were still alive. To survive, I create myself rules. Rule number 1, patience. Every day I told myself, just one more day, don't think further. Patience was my lifeline. Rule number 2, find common ground. I spoke with my captors about faith, about the Torah and the Quran, about Yosef and Yusuf, Abraham and Ibrahim. Different name, but universal stories. It reminded me that humanity can exist even in darkness. Rule number 3, anger destroys you. You cannot survive on anger. I let myself feel it sometimes, but then I let it go. Rule number 4, keep the mind working. My engineering background saved me. I counted steps, I collected data, I built a small light from broken cables. I planned escape routes in my head. I told myself, you will not let others decide your destiny. And I tried to escape. I dug for weeks, through sandbags, through a collapsed tunnel, towards the surface. I made myself work to change my own destiny. One day, as I was digging, I hit the root of a tree. I smelled it. It felt like touching life in the place of death. Then one night, I reached the outside. I saw stars for the first time in years. I walked hostage on a white sandbag, planning my next step. But they found out. They beat me for days. They tied me to a chair for a week. I was sure I would die there. But even then, I wrote 3 things next to my bed. This too shall pass, patient, and let it be. Those words kept me human. In the tunnels, I had too much time to think about life. I used to believe I had a bad luck. How could this happen to me? Now I understand something different. Everything in my life, my childhood, my parents, my education, my army service, working in construction, studying engineering, all of it made me who I am. And who I am is what kept me alive. I don't see myself as a hero. I didn't choose to be a hostage. The heroes are the IDF soldiers, the ones who choose to fight for others, who live with trauma, whose lives are broken. They saved so many lives, and I want to help them. That is my next mission. But I did survive. But I did survive. And because I survived, I carry a responsibility. A responsibility to talk about patience, about humanity, and about complexity. A responsibility to know good from evil, right from wrong, and to have moral clarity. A responsibility to remind us that division destroys us, and that we must find what brings us together, not what rips us apart. A responsibility for unity. We, the Jewish people, survived thousands of years because we stood together. When we are united, we are unbreakable. And when the Jewish people unite around the cause, like bring our hostage home, we are unstoppable. Unity is not a slogan, it's our strength. If I learned one thing in the tunnel, it is it. Everything can be taken from you. Your freedom, your name, your time, your body. But no one can take your mind and your humanity. That is where survival begins. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm really excited to be here with all of you today. My name is Eviatar David, I'm 24 years old. I was kidnapped together with my best friend Guy, who is here next to me. And standing here together now is an unbelievable full circus moment for us. On October 7th, two of our best friends were murdered, and the amount of horrors we saw that day is impossible to digest. We were held hostage for 780 and 38 days, more than 2 years in captivity. 2 years of starvation, torture, and terror. While we were in captivity, our families fought every single day. Our parents, siblings, and friends, doing everything they could. They went everywhere, shouting our names, demanding our return. Their love and their strength reached us even from so far away. And today, because of them, and because of so many of you, we are home. It fills my heart to see the incredible number of people here and how you've come together for us, for the hostages, for our soldiers, for the Jewish people and the state of Israel. Thank you. We are grateful beyond words to the IDF, to the brave soldiers who risked everything to bring us home, and to all of you who never stopped fighting, marching, praying, and refusing to let us be forgotten. Thank you. Our new journey is now only beginning, a journey of healing and coping. Together with our families and incredible people like you, supporting us, we will recover, we will rebuild, and we will emerge stronger than ever. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for standing with us and for standing with every hostage family. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Guy Gilboa Dalal. I'm 24 years old and I'm finally back home. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. On October 7th, I went to the Nova Music Festival with my three best friends, Idan Aramati, Ron Sarfati, may their soul rest in peace, and Eviatar David. We had been waiting for a long time for the festival, and we had a great time all together the night before. I was so happy when my older brother, Gal, decided to join at 6 in the morning. But this happiness didn't last long. 30 minutes later, at exactly 6:30 a.m., the alarms went off and the music stopped. The sky filled with rockets, and before we had time to understand what was happening, the terrorists arrived at our location, shooting and killing everyone they saw. We tried to escape, and we tried to hide. I was kidnapped by Hamas terrorists with Aviatar, without knowing the fate of my brother Gal, Idan, and Ron. On the day of my release, I learned that Idan and Ron were brutally murdered. They are forever with me in my heart. I'm standing here before all of you after 2 horrific years that felt like an eternity. 2 long years of darkness, pain, and unimaginable difficulties. Every day in the tunnels of Hamas felt like it could be my last. From starvation, from the harsh and inhuman conditions, from the uncertainty of what the next day will bring. But I didn't give up. I didn't lose hope. I took strength from thinking about the reunion with my family and friends, and from the support of the Israeli people and you, all the Jewish community. Before I was taken down to the tunnels, I managed to hear the radio a little bit. I heard what was happening in Israel and across the globe, about all the love and the support from the Jewish communities in America and around the world. You prayed for me and for all the other hostages to get back home safely as soon as possible. You gave me hope and power. Thank you, all of you. I want to thank the brave and amazing IDF soldiers for protecting our country. Young people who just finished high school, yet stand with so much power and courage. People who left their families, their business, and their whole life behind. I am standing here today because of them. I salute them, truly. Today, there are still 3 hostages being held in Gaza: Ran, Dror, and Sutisak. Their families and all of us are still waiting for their return. And the fight is not over until everyone is back home. Until the last hostage. Thank you, everyone.
Please welcome our General Assembly Band, the Tamari Project, to perform Achenu, our global Jewish prayer for hostages these last 2 years. We continue to pray that all the hostages are returned soon, and we rejoice that the living hostages are all back home with their families.
אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה.
אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם, ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה ומאפלה לאורה ומשעבוד לגאולה בגלה ובזמן קריב. אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה, בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה.
המקום
ירחם, ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה ומאפלה לאורה ומשעבוד לגאולה אשתה בגלה ובזמן קריב. המקום ירחם, ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה ומאפלה לאורה ומשעבוד לגאולה אשתה בגלה ובזמן קריב. אשתה בגלה ובזמן קריב.
Please welcome this year's General Assembly co-chairs, Joan Lubar and John Crouch.
Welcome to the 2025 General Assembly. John and I are so honored to serve as the 2025 General Assembly chairs, and we are proud to stand here as members of our beloved Milwaukee Jewish community. Before anything else, we are so overjoyed to have started our time together with Noah, Avinatan, Guy, and Eviatar. The four of you and all the hostages have endured so much over these last 2 years. You are forever part of our hearts, and it means the world to us that you are all safely back home. We love you and will always stand with you. We also send our love and support to all the families that are suffering unimaginable pain after burying their loved ones, the families of hostages we've lost, soldiers who have fallen, and all the precious lives lost since October 7th.
It's truly extraordinary to look out at this room, 2,000 leaders from across North America and Israel. Together, we represent 141 Jewish Federation communities, countless partners, leaders, and friends. And what a joy it is to welcome so many special groups who bring such passion and vision to our community. Members of the National Young Leadership Cabinet and National Women's Philanthropy, more than 60 Jewish changemakers, and 50 college students here through a new collaboration with Hillel International. To all of you, welcome.
The General Assembly has been at the heart of North American Jewish communal life for nearly a century. Every year, we come together to reflect, to learn, and to plan, to take stock of where we are as a people and where we must go next. And every year, we do so in the spirit of partnership and action with each other, with our communities, and with Israel.
But this year feels different. We gather at a moment unlike in any in recent memory, a moment of rebuilding, of reckoning, and of renewal. In Israel, our brothers and sisters are still recovering from the devastation of October 7th. Across the country, families, communities, and entire regions are engaged in the difficult work of rebuilding their lives physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
And our federations, along with countless partners, have been there every step of the way, helping to heal, to restore, and to build a stronger, more resilient Israel for the future. That work continues, and it is one of the central themes of this GA, rebuilding Israel together.
We're also here to talk about protecting our communities and confronting anti-Semitism, a challenge that has grown sharper, louder, and more complex than ever before. Over the past year, we've seen hate creep into our schools, workplaces, campuses, and even the halls of power. But we've also seen extraordinary resolve. We've mobilized like never before, building coalitions, training leaders, and standing up for Jewish safety, dignity, wherever it's threatened.
That's what we do as a people. We face the darkness, but we also bring light. We don't back away from hard moments. We meet them with courage, unity, and hope. Because amidst all the challenges, something remarkable is happening. Across this continent, we are seeing an unprecedented surge of interest in Jewish life. Young adults seeking meaning and purpose, families rediscovering community, people of every background showing up to learn, to give, to belong.
Over the next few days, you'll have the chance to explore these challenges and opportunities with some of the most thoughtful and visionary leaders in Jewish life. Our General Assembly program this year is extraordinary. Here's what you can expect over the next 2 days. We have 4 main stage plenaries that will anchor our time together, and we can't wait to hear all the incredible speakers who will lend their wisdom and voice to the conversation. We are also incredibly excited that the amazing Rabbi Angela Buchdahl has joined this year's General Assembly as our scholar in residence. You'll hear from Rabbi Buchdahl later in this plenary and over the next 2 days. We will also soon welcome the Tamari Project, this year's General Assembly band, to infuse music into this experience.
We also have more than 40 featured sessions, each one specially curated to help us meet this moment. From new models of partnership in Israel to innovative approaches to civic engagement and Jewish belonging, this General Assembly is about learning, sharing, and pushing our collective work forward. We've spent so much of the past year in crisis mode, responding, protecting, and repairing. But we're also being called to dream again, to imagine what Jewish life can look like in the years ahead. How do we channel this renewed energy? How do we help those who are searching to find a home in Jewish life? How do we ensure the next generation inherits not just a community that's safe, but one that's vibrant and welcoming and full of possibility? And so, as we begin this year's General Assembly, let's carry that spirit with us. Let's listen deeply, learn boldly, and lead together. We have the privilege and the responsibility of shaping the next chapter of Jewish life. Let's make it one defined by courage, by compassion, and by connection.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do every day to strengthen our communities, support Israel, and secure the Jewish future.
Now, to help us get started and better understand the context for our work ahead, we are honored to welcome to the stage Jessica Tarlov, Scott Jennings, and Ram Emanuel. Thank you.
Thank you. This way.
Hi, everyone. Oh, it's already on. Great. I just want to start off by thanking the Jewish Federations of North America for having us here. We are completely humbled by this experience, made even better by hearing from those brave released hostages, and it's so great to be in such a warm room with people who share such an important sense of purpose. We only have 30 minutes, so I want to make sure that we cover as much territory as possible in that time. And I think that the best place to start is unfortunate to some degree, well, to a large degree, but it's on the topic of anti-Semitism, which I know has affected many of you in this community and certainly Jews across the world. It's a problem here at home on both the right and the left, and you have representatives of both the right and the left here.
Well, let's be clear, not of anti-Semitism.
Yes, no anti-Semites on the stage. There are
not representing that today.
No. Yeah. Democrats and Republicans all concerned about anti-Semitism. On the right, and Scott, you've spoken about this, we recently had Tucker Carlson's uncritical interview of Nick Fuentes. Uncritical, I'm being generous in saying that, and I was just reading before we came out here on stage that he even had dinner with Nick Fuentes the night before at his house in Maine to make sure that he knew that it wasn't going to be a difficult interview per se. And then you had the head of the Heritage Foundation who failed to condemn it, and eventually a couple days later came around with a change of tune. On the left side of the spectrum, New York City just voted in Zohran Mamdani to be its next mayor. Mamdani has called it
I think it's the way they typed his name.
Oh.
The way they typed his name.
Oh. Okay. Mamdani has said that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. He's a supporter of the BDS movement. And over 1,000 rabbis signed a letter expressing concern over what would happen in Jewish life in New York if he were to become mayor. I would love to hear from both of you, starting with you, Scott, on how would you assess the anti-Semitism problem, starting on the right, and what do you think we can do about it?
Well, first of all, thank you all for having me here, and I hardly feel worthy to be on the stage after hearing from the heroes that we just heard from. I think the number one thing that we have to hold our political leaders to is that we can never let them forget that they shouldn't fear losing support from people you don't want support from in the first place. And I think sometimes in our politics these days, people operate out of a position of fear rather than a position of strength. And a position of strength in this case would be to say, who and what ideas do I want to be associated with? Some people have said this is a matter of free speech. It's not a matter of free speech. It's a matter of what speech do I want to be associated with? You do not have to absorb every crazy person or every crazy idea just because they wander in someday. Political movements are inherently weak that do that. Political movements and political parties that stand for something right and true and can tell the difference between right and wrong in civilization and barbarism, those are the strong movements, those are the strong parties, and those are the movements that are going to endure. So I think as a Republican, as a conservative, as somebody who has always supported his party and believes strongly in his party and couldn't be more proud of his president and what he did to bring these hostages home, the next front in this fight for the future of Western civilization is whether we're going to let either the right or the left be overwhelmed by this hatred. And I pray every day that we will not.
And Ram, to you, on the left, it's obviously been a problem for a while, and we've been in particular having this discussion where people will say, we're just criticizing the Israeli government, and it's not anti-Semitism. We were just talking about that off stage a bit. What's your take on what's going on?
Well, before I start, I just, to the four young men and women, I don't think I would be that generous a spirit as what we just saw. And if there's in fact, I can strike, I don't think, 'cause I would not be as generous a spirit. And the beauty of their souls is a testament to Jewish life and Jewish intellectual life and Jewish moral teaching. And I compliment them. I obviously got a D in Jewish moral teaching because I would not be that generous. Look, I think to all of us, anti-Semitism is not new. Somebody says it's rising. That's not true. It's more public, but it's always been present. I used to tease President Obama about this, that I was a birther before he ever became a birther. And the reason is that those from Chicago know when I ran for Congress, there were 5 candidates, I had to show my birth certificate, and I was the only one that had to do it in a big city. Now, I say that, but I also recognizing one over, obviously, 50% wanted you to know that. No, but on a serious note, I knew the people of the city of Chicago. Now, look, the predecessors who had that office were Dan Rostenkowski, Frank Annunzio, Roman Puczynski, Mike Flanagan, Rob Blagojevich, Rahm Israel Emanuel. Doesn't really fit in. And they voted. They didn't vote based on religion in a city based on ethnicity. They voted on character. So it always existed, and it was a very ugly campaign. A leader once said, we're not going to let the money changers here. So it's always been there, and the best part, the Jewish people of America have never had a better country outside of Israel. I am the product. I've had 5 positions in public life. We are a part of the Enlightenment and the liberal thought. I said to you earlier, the only thin line positive of this whole recent period is we're no longer having a discussion about Israel as a proxy. We know what it was. We used to say it. It's out there, it's present, and now we can take it on. We can find common cause where Scott and I don't agree on certain things, a lot of certain things. But when it comes to anti-Semitism, when it comes to hatred because of people's faith, their ethnicity, their race, their sexual orientation, that is where we stand united as a humanity. And if one hostage could say, I found my humanity, it's a calling to us. Hatred wherever it exists, whether we are a target or not. Because it's not us first. We're in the line. And we confront that, and I say to that in this moment that there's a goodness there, and it's our responsibility to touch it and bring it to life.
I like that idea very much, and I think it gives people, especially in this room, a lot of hope for what's to come. And another thing that is also giving us hope is that there may be a chance at lasting peace in the region between Israel and Gaza with Arab partners. We're 2 years and change post-October 7th. 3 hostages are left there. The rest have been released at this point. I'm going to, just to mix it up, start with you on this one, Ram. What do you think about this moment in terms of moving forward in the region? What are the opportunities that you think could feasibly be seized?
Look, I'm not exactly a glass half full kind of guy. This is, I think, Israel has never had a better strategic moment since Ben Gurion was dancing the Hora in Tel Aviv in 1948. You have Iran is basically not only just its security apparatus has been crumbled. I don't know if you saw this the other day. They're now thinking of moving the capital of Tehran because there's no water. There's no economy left, and there's no security apparatus. Syria is basically in a non-belligerent. Lebanon is talking to Israel about maybe coming to something fuller. Jordan and Egypt, when you think from 67, the Ring, has had full peace agreements, and they survived 2 years of war. The Gulf countries no longer want to produce oil. They want to be part of the global economy in the same way that Israel does. I think the strategic alignment is incredible for an attempt now not only to use what the IDF did to achieve the goals the IDF created the opportunity for. And it creates, in my view, one of the most unique opportunities for Israel to achieve from the 48, the founding concept, to be a nation among nations. So this, to me, is a window of opportunity for the type of statesmanship that we have seen through Israel's history, and you have a partner in the United States for that. And I think that this is, when I look at it, you go through all the conflicts, 67, 73, obviously 82, you go through October 7th, this is a window that is different than hasn't existed for Israel since the first days of after the 67 war. So to me, while it's been a gut-wrenching 2 years, there is an opportunity here to be seized, leaving the military to the side on the political, diplomatic, strategic sense.
Scott, are you as optimistic?
I am optimistic, but I am worried because in the aftermath of October the 7th, I was frankly shocked and stunned at how quickly the propaganda campaign against Israel took hold in the West. And I think Israel is best positioned to succeed when it has strong allies and strong feelings from the West. And I'm worried. I wore this, if any of you all in here are CNN viewers, I don't know if you are or not. Yeah, if you, oh, thank you. You tripled our audience, thank you. I wore this on television every night for 2 years because I wanted everybody to know there was at least one person in cable news who could tell the difference between right and wrong. And I'm worried because of the propaganda campaign that took hold, to be candid with you. Not just among activists, but among a lot of people who control our media here in the West. And I worried about what was happening even as we were closing in on a deal to return the hostages. You had Western governments throwing in with the barbarians at the very end, and I think delaying their return. And so I agree it's an opportunity, and I want to be optimistic, but I think political vigilance is required. And whatever happens to the U.S. government in 26 and 28, we just have to make sure that they understand our democratic ally, Israel, is our ally, our indispensable ally in the region and in the world. And you know, we probably all have different feelings about governments and politics and parties in both the United States and in Israel. It's not, in my opinion, our job to dictate to the people of Israel what they do with their domestic politics. It's only our job as American political actors to understand the indispensable nature of this relationship and of this friendship. It's good for Israel and it's good for the United States, and the next Congress and the next president ought to be made to remember it every single day.
I guess this question kind of brings together the themes that we've already been talking about. So we agree that, you know, we need to treat Israel as the indispensable ally that it is, and that we want our government to reflect that. But there are very powerful actors, you know, within government and certainly who have the ears of people in these positions of power who don't feel that way, who question that alliance, and some of them, you know, moving all the way over to being anti-Semitic themselves. How do you think that we can do better, that we can raise the perception of Israel here in the United States? There's another panel coming up on fixing the education system to make sure that kids aren't getting the wrong lessons about Israel and the Jewish people from when they're young. And obviously, Ram, this is a topic near and dear to you from when you were mayor, making sure that kids get good educations. So what do you think about that?
On the education part or
all of it, whatever. I have like 80 questions for you, so I'm just jamming it together.
Well, look, I don't mean to be the party pooper, but look, this is not going to be helpful if we're not going to be honest with each other. So you got to look at the data, and I know you all are very interested in public policy, where you look where Israel stands right now in America with people under the age of 30. Forget party. Forget Democrat, Republican. Just look at the public. It is a political risk today to take a position, not a moral, I'm talking politics. And guess what? People in politics are influenced by politics. Israel is extremely unpopular, and I want to drive this point home for all of us who support a Jewish state. In 2007, when Senator Obama is thinking of running for US president, he makes a trip to Israel to go to Jerusalem, to go to the Wailing Wall, to wear a yarmulke, to be seen there. That's both personal as well as political. And I don't say political in the sense, oh, it's political. You go to 2028, race your head forward. You name me, there's going to be, if in 2024 the Democrats didn't have a choice, 2028 it's going to be like Baskin and Robbins. There's going to be like 31 flavors. Some of us are going to be chocolate mint. Nobody is going to Jerusalem. Nobody is leaving America to go travel to Jerusalem. That's the politics. And it's not just in the Democratic primary. So all of us who believe, and I share Scott's sentiment, believe in the importance of the U.S.-Israel relationship, believe in democracy, believe in the values, believe in the strategic benefit that both countries draw. Today, Israel, for a generation, under 30, the last 2 years will be a seminal definition as what the Six-Day War was for those 6 days for a generation. And we have our work cut out. So if you, look, this may be the last time I'm asked to speak to you. I get it. But we have to be honest about the task we have, the difficulty of this task, and the challenge we have who believe that there is something special. And we have our work cut out, right? And it's not here to get applause. It's here to understand the reality of the challenge that we have, who believe that what exists is unique and special in human history. And so it is a problem that starts very young, and not only education, and doesn't make it just for Jewish kids. It makes it what's important about liberal, enlightened democracies, what values they share, and what the commonality is in that aspect. And if one hostage can get up and talk about finding the common ground and the humanity, then it's a common about all of us for the benefit of a relationship that has stood the test of time, good and bad.
I think the thing I'm most optimistic about over the next few years...
I thought you were not optimistic, but
well,
okay.
I wanted
After listening to you.
Yeah. I'm trying to add a little more optimism to our conversation. I do think this. From this point forward, it is entirely possible that over the next 3 years, you're going to see incredible things happen. The expansion of the Abraham Accords, continued peace and security in the region, with Iran largely defeated and its terror proxies defeated. There's an opportunity here to begin to build something. And if we do build that over 3 years, I would hope that for both parties, certainly the incumbent party would want to tout that success and that strength, and I would hope that both parties would look at it and say, I don't want to run a campaign and say, well, this wasn't good. We need to roll this back. We need to rethink what we're doing here. I would hope that they would run a campaign of agreement and say, actually, this is the greatest opportunity in our lifetime to continue to build an era of peace and security and prosperity for everyone in the region who has decided to lock arms and take the plunge here in the quest for peace. And so I guess if there's any political momentum to be had, it begins now, and hopefully this administration is able to see it through, and hopefully the partners in the region are interested in seeing it through, and that the people who run to replace this administration understand the benefit of this, that it's a good thing and not something to be ashamed of or not something to run away from.
I mean, I agree about the political piece on this, Scott, which is that the IDF did what they did. Now it's up to the political and the statesmen to make the most of that so it's secure. But the task here is a major long-term rehabilitation of the narrative around what Israel means. And if we don't understand the depth of where we are, we're never going to fix the problem ahead of us. And if you haven't seen the data of where Israel stands with kids under 30, not just your kids, friends, and them, where it is under 30, this is the voters of the future with a major, major political statement. And so we have our work cut out for us that believe that the U.S.-Israeli relationship, Israel is a democracy with all the shared values that come within a democracy and the political culture around that. We have to roll up our sleeves and have a long-term, not short-term, work to do to make it a nation among nations, again.
So we've actually kept remarkable time. This is the shortest answers I've ever heard you give, Ram. So
I'm limited by the English language.
I wanted to ask you about this headline. It was in the Atlantic. Franklin Foer wrote it. And it proclaimed that the golden age of American Jews is ending. And he said, anti-Semitism on the right and left threatens to bring to a close an unprecedented period of safety and prosperity for Jewish Americans and demolish the liberal order they helped establish. Scott first, do you agree?
You were optimistic a minute ago, so stay with it.
Well, I think that there are some political actors in the moment who believe that it is expedient to exploit what Ram was just talking about, this moment in time where world events have, and frankly the manipulation of social media has convinced a whole bunch of young people that who are looking for someone to blame for things that this is the correct enemy. On the other hand, when you have challenges like this, it's an opportunity to rethink how you're presenting arguments. It's an opportunity to find leaders who will stand with you, and it's an opportunity to realize you just can't coast when it comes to politics or messaging or anything else. You have to constantly be vigilant about what's happening. And I think what we've learned in the moment is that there are people who are constantly waiting to exploit what's happened here. And so I guess I'm by nature an optimistic person, so I'm not ready to throw in the towel. I'm ready to get in the ring and fight it out, because I'm just not ready to give in to this idea that, well, you know, the propaganda campaign worked, and somehow we've decided to throw in with the barbarians. Somehow we've decided that, you know, we can't tell the difference between the good guys and the bad guys in a very obvious situation. I don't personally believe that, and I have to believe there are enough good political leaders out there to at least fight this out over the next few years. And if we do have leaders who are willing to stand up, even in the face of the political realities that Ram, I think, correctly stated, minds can be changed. You know, people aren't locked in cement when it comes to politics. People change their minds all the time. All the people who voted for Bill Clinton now vote for Donald Trump. Imagine that. And so I'm just telling you,
I remember
people,
who did that.
People will follow leadership. People are constantly looking for the truth, and they will follow leadership. And so for people like you who are engaged, you can never let your leaders off the hook with wishy-washy answers and shaky viewpoints. You have to hold them to account. And so, but it's a fight. It won't be easy, but I guess I'm just not ready to throw in the towel on it.
You know, I think it's on the precipice. I think it can, in my own view, can go either way. To the core part of that headline, the basic point, my view on this is, look, My grandfather came to Chicago 1914 from Moldova, 14 years old, worked on Maxwell Street. My dad, after the War of Independence, came to America to do medicine, having fought in the War of Independence. The idea that the middle son of a Jewish family, who both a grandfather and a father would hit on the back of the head and say, "What are you, a schmuck?" could be the chief of staff to the President of the United States, could be a senior advisor to another president, represent the greatest country in the world. I think I won the lottery ticket when I became an American citizen. To get elected to Congress 4 times, mayor twice to a city, that is not a guarantee. It's because this country is special. And my story is every one of your stories somewhere else. The guarantee that it happens, nothing's guaranteed in life. As those 4 people that beautifully talked beforehand. It's not guaranteed. And whether that headline, whether that era, that golden era closes or stays open for another generation, is not only incumbent upon the people in this room, but incumbent upon all of us who believe in a set of values that are, as noted, are universal. And I think, given what we're seeing on the left and the right, not only about Israel, but now fully open about Jews and who they are, sits on the precipice. It can go either way. So I think people of good purpose and good clarity have a responsibility. And I think that it's, to be honest, because of where it is right now, it's a coin flip. And I'm not ready to say it's going to land heads, we win.
Okay. Well, we're out of time, perfectly on time. But I do know that just from speaking to some of you over the course of the last few hours, just running into you, that the work that you're doing is so valuable towards making sure that that coin flip goes in the good direction. So I just want to thank the Jewish Federations for having us again for this conversation, and we look forward to more of them and hope you enjoy the rest of the General Assembly.
Please welcome the chair of the Jewish Federations of North America, Gary Torgo.
Good afternoon. It is my absolute pleasure to be joining with all of you from Detroit, Michigan. An honor to be here for the Jewish Federation of North America's historic 2025 General Assembly. This is a gathering of so many outstanding leaders all joined together to inspire, to learn from one another, and to share ideas that will strengthen the future of our communities and the Jewish people long into the future. I begin this evening by expressing my great appreciation to our General Assembly chairs, Joan Lubar and John Crouch, for their inspired vision and leadership that have brought us together at a critically important moment for all the Jewish people. They have helped create a forum that allows us to engage deeply on the most serious and complex Jewish issues of our time. Joan and John, we all owe you a debt of gratitude. I also want to express my deep appreciation to the Jewish Federations of North America Professional Corps, who have created, organized, and undertaken what I believe will long be remembered as one of the most effective General Assemblies in the Federation's history. To our dynamic CEO and our Executive Vice President, Eric Fingerhut and Shira Hutt, and their remarkable team. Clap for them, please. Who have, as you will see throughout the next days, literally orchestrated every detail to make this GA meaningful, engaging, and inspiring for all of us. I also want to say a special thank you to the Officers Corps of the Jewish Federations of North America, Vice Chairman Jeff Schoenfeld, Campaign Chair David Heller, Treasurer Dina Rashis, Secretary David Golder, and immediate past Chair Julie Platt. To each of them, my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation. We are all here today, remarkably just weeks after the release of our beloved hostages, which you saw today, which occurred on Hoshana Rabbah, October 13th, 2025. We watched with horror that day that they were taken on October 7th, 2023, a day that will be forever seared in our minds and in our hearts. We are so grateful to the leadership of Israel, the administration of the United States, and with the unending gratitude to the Almighty for allowing the Jewish people worldwide to celebrate their homecoming. We also continue to witness the final return of the earthly remains of those holy souls who were brutally murdered, who are finally being returned to their beloved families for proper burial and closure. Each Kaddish that is said across the global Jewish community for our lost and fallen is a reminder of the pain we have endured in our recent past. We will never be able to erase that pain, but we must allow it to propel us forward with a sense of purpose, that we band together and stand strong and steadfast in unity with our heroic and beloved brothers and sisters in Israel. The Jewish people have endured discrimination for thousands of years, pogroms, annihilations, holocausts. Yet through it all, at every place in our history, these moments of tragedy somehow inspire us to become stronger and more united, because that is what the Jewish people do. We lift one another up, we rebuild together, and no matter what the tragedy or struggle, we move forward with hope and faith. We commit ourselves to continue to be there for Israel, and we will always work to educate, empower, and inspire Jews everywhere to be stronger, more connected, and more unified. But even as we mobilize and concentrate on the support of Israel, at the same time, unfortunately, we are confronting challenges of critical significance here in the diaspora. The scourge of anti-Semitism that has exploded since October 7th. We know all too well that anti-Semitism is not new. Over the centuries, it has taken different shapes and forms, yet its irrational core remains the same. Anti-Semites may come and go, but the baseless hatred remains. But we must always remind ourselves how fortunate we are in this generation. Unlike any other time in history, we have that beacon of light, the state of Israel, which is ours. It is our eternal homeland, a refuge for all Jews, and therefore we must continue at all costs to advocate for its security and the safety of its people. Today, unfortunately, anti-Semitism has found new megaphones in our universities, cities, and social media. Algorithms that reward outrage, influencers who platform hate, and politicians that look the other way when lies travel at the speed of a click. And all too often, the extreme right and the extreme left, so far apart on everything else, have found common ground, even in our own country, in their contempt for Jews and for Israel. Yet through it all, the Jewish people keep answering with faith and courage. The same faith in God and courage that have carried us through every dark chapter of our history. So where does our salvation come from? What has sustained the Jewish people through centuries of exile and persecution? The answer never lies in politics or politicians or power or the strength of a society, but in the timeless messages transmitted from heaven. Judaism teaches us a foundational lesson in the words spoken to us collectively at the Sinai mountain when we were gifted with the 10 Commandments. The first of those 10 reads, "I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt from the house of bondage." This proclamation is ever familiar to each of us, taught in Hebrew schools and classrooms and synagogues around the world. But the question begs to be asked, Where is the commandment that lies in these words? I am the Lord your God, and I took you out from bondage. The other 9 commandments are so different and clear. They command us to honor your father and mother, do not kill or steal or covet. But what is the command of the first of those 10? Our sages therefore teach us that this first commandment is in fact a critical and direct command. It is the commandment for every Jewish person to have hope and faith, that even after hundreds of years of slavery in Egypt, being held hostage by the most powerful military force on earth, the Lord our God took us out. We left Egypt, we received the Torah, and we became a free people together. This is our first commandment. It is a commandment to hope beyond hope, to believe in redemption, even when all seems lost. It is the foundation of existence as the Jewish people and the source of our obligation to provide hope to each other. It is what has carried us through the millennia and will carry us far from October 7th and beyond. And hope, we are taught, as you all know well, is never passive. It demands that we do something, that we turn faith into kindness and kindness into change. Jewish faith, Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik wrote, is a call to action to participate in the redeeming of the world. It is a demand to us to do everything we can to be kind and loving and giving to each other, and that there is no Jew who should be outside of our tent, no matter where he or she is stationed, that doesn't need our love and our compassion. Our historic Jewish Federations of North America team in Israel, led by Becky Caspi, in coordination with Israel emergency leaders, yes, for Becky, in coordination with Israel emergency leaders, our great leaders, Jeff Schoenfeld and Steve Hoffman, have spent these past 2 years dividing up North America's Jewish largesse to spread kindness all over Israel. In the next few days, we have almost an unimaginable amount of work to accomplish. The Jewish world is looking to us to assess our needs, to plan our solutions, to protect our people from threats both without and within, and to educate our children for the future that today is our responsibility and one day will be theirs. Let me share with you how that command of hope and faith and loving kindness lives across the land of Israel and throughout the Jewish people. Let me tell you about one, Rabbi Tamir Granot, the dean of Yeshivat Hesder in Israel. It is one of the many yeshivot in Israel whose students commit to a 5-year program combining rigorous Torah study with devoted service in the Israeli Defense Forces. On October 2nd, 2023, Rabbi Granot laid out his plan to spread love and unity by continuing his Tel Aviv Yeshiva annual tradition of dancing in the streets of Tel Aviv in celebration of Simchat Torah, to help bring together Jews of every belief and every background during an especially fractious time in Israel when so much disunity was occurring. He even ordered T-shirts for each student printed with the words, Hareini Mekabel al Atzmi Le'ehov, where each student would adorn themselves across their shirts with the words, I wholeheartedly commit myself to love everyone. That was the message Rabbi Granot wanted the people of Tel Aviv to see from the students of his yeshiva. Each student received a shirt, but ultimately were never able to wear them. The dancing in the streets was not to be. It was Simchat Torah, October 7th, and by midday, all of Rabbi Granot's students had reported to their IDF units. Among them was Rabbi Granot's own son, Amitai, a promising young Torah scholar who served as a tank commander. Just the week before October 7th, Amitai had become engaged to his fiancée, Roni. A few days later at 4 a.m., he called her from his tank in Gaza and said, Roni, as soon as I get out of here, let's get married. No fancy party, no band, let's just do it. And she wholeheartedly agreed. At 11 a.m. that morning, a missile struck his tank, and Amitai was killed. At the funeral, his father, Rabbi Granot, turned to Amitai's fiancée, Roni, who stood right next to him and said, Ronale, it will take all of us time and it will be difficult, but please choose life, choose life. This past summer, Roni and her new fiancé asked Rabbi Granot to officiate at their wedding. Rabbi Granot said to them, "If I participate, will it not bring sadness to your happy day? Amitai's presence will be there with me." The young bride and groom replied, "That's exactly why we came to you." Under the chuppah, the wedding canopy, Rabbi Granot read from Amitai's diary of his late son's hope for a home filled with light and music and children and happiness, that he said, "Today is Amitai's gift to you, my dear Chassan and Kala, that you should have the life he dreamed of." That's Jewish heroism. That's hope and faith. That's loving kindness, all wrapped in one man's sacrifice for the Jewish people. After the chuppah, Rabbi Granot shared that he noticed his tears dripping into the ceremonial cup of wine. For him and his wife, he said, this wedding should have been Amitai's, but it was, in fact, somehow strangely comforting. In the last 2 years, we have tragically lost thousands. Thousands more have been wounded, maimed, burned, forever traumatized and changed. But we as a Jewish people have so much to mourn for. But as a Jewish nation, as Rabbi Granot exhorted us, we must choose life because we have so much living to do, so much building, so much educating, so much protecting, so much kindness, and so much love. We are, after all, as all of you know, the Jewish people, who must remain the most resilient people in all of humanity. We have withstood the vagaries of history, and we demand a future filled with light and hope and faith, with children and happiness, and therefore we all choose life. We forge ahead. All too often, regrettably, there are tears in our wine, but those tears remind us of our unique obligations to each other, to the world, and to the future. They remind us of our epic, historic mission to make the world a better place, a light onto the nations for each other. And that, my dear friends, is why we are here this week, because this is what federations do. We turn heartbreak into hope, compassion into action, and faith into rebuilding. And today, in this room and across the Jewish people, we stand united at an inflection point. We have in this hall today our partners across North America, Israel, and the world. What we have accomplished since October 7th has been nothing short of miraculous. Our federations mounted the largest emergency campaign in Jewish history. We supported more than 500 NGOs throughout Israel. We advocated in city councils and state legislators in the halls of Congress, and we protected our people from thousands of threats through Live Secure. And now our frontline effort, led by our terrific leader and my dear friend Julie Platt, who is here today. And so our agenda has 3 key priorities. We will remind ourselves of each of these in every session, every discussion, and every deliberation at the GA. We will bring the same energy, creativity, and unity to help rebuild Israel after the war as we did during the emergency of the past 2 years. And so today, we officially close the emergency campaign at this General Assembly. You will hear over the next 2 days how our efforts to rebuild Israel are already flourishing. Together with our dear partners at the Jewish Agency, led by Doron Almog, Mark Wolf, and Yehuda Seton, and their amazing team, we have already launched the largest program of loans and grants to reservists and their families who have sacrificed so much these past 2 years. We are engaged. We are engaged deeply with the government of Israel in building 1,000 new homes in the South, and with the JDC, led by its president, Annie Sandler, CEO Ariel Zwang, it's okay to clap, and Israeli executive Hadass Minka Brand. We are partnering to rebuild the social infrastructure of all the communities in the North, and so much more. We are also working hard to strengthen the relationship between Israel and North American Jewry. Through our partnerships with the Jewish Agency, Birthright, and community-to-community programs, we will expand shlichim placements, send volunteers of all ages to Israel, and enable every federation to partner with its agencies to help rebuild with our hands and our hearts, with our expertise. And we will invest in the next generation of security professionals and lay leaders to ensure that every Jewish institution is protected and that our communities not only survive, but thrive. And we will learn. And we will learn from one of the great lessons since October 7th that Jewish education and Jewish engagement are amongst the greatest tools to strengthen the future of the Jewish people. Parents across the diaspora are seeking Jewish schools that are safe and high quality and rooted in Jewish identity and values. We are inspired by federations like Toronto, Cleveland, Atlanta, Chicago, Florida, and Detroit, which have stepped forward as others to meet this critical need. Formal Jewish education. Formal Jewish education has now been lifted to be one of the Jewish Federation of North America's highest priorities. We understand its success. We understand its success, or God forbid failure, will be the legacy of this generation, and we will and must do our part. Jewish Federations of North America Public Affairs Committee, led by Jason Williger, has urged every state to opt into the new federal education tax credit, a step that can transform Jewish education accessibility nationwide, and we will strengthen and support with every effort we can muster civic engagement to work with our political leadership on every level of government to protect and strengthen and encourage Jewish life. Our mission is not only to rebuild or protect physical structures, it is to renew the faith and hope of our people, to teach our children who they are and why they matter, to stand tall as Jews, proud of our values and our story, united in our mission to help to educate and protect Jews in every corner of this globe. As I look across this amazing assemblage, over 2,000 strong, representing every federation and so many critical partners, I am confident beyond measure that we all know where we are headed, and together we can and we will, with unity and kindness, undoubtedly exceed our goals and aspirations. May this General Assembly continue to ignite our faith and our hope and our unity, and may we each emerge with renewed strength and resolve to build, to teach, to heal, and to love Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. Thank you all, and may each of you, thank you, and may each of you, in the merit of your amazing efforts on behalf of the Jewish people, be blessed with an abundance of heavenly blessings for you and your wonderful families. Chazak v'amatz, Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you.
Please welcome the President and CEO of the Jewish Federations of North America, Eric Fingerhut.
With that amazing charge, we're going to begin to answer the questions that have been put before us. And to do that, I want to first welcome Sarah Hurwitz, former White House speechwriter and best-selling author in the Jewish community, Richard Marceau, former Canadian MP and Vice President of CIJA in Canada, and Dr. Mika Goodman, leading Israeli philosopher and public intellectual. So we all agreed that you've got the bios on the apps and that you could read them, and we want to get right to it. So we've all, I think the word of the GA has already become inflection point. We're all at this inflection point. We've all lived these same experiences over the last 2 years, except the three of you have lived it in different countries. Sarah in the United States, Richard in Canada, and Mika in Israel. So I'd like you to take this opening session, opening segment, and I'm going to ask each of you, I'm going to give you each time to answer this question for the audience. I think we all have some experiences of the places where we were, but we're not sure what it's been like in the other countries. So would each of you not just address those who know what you're talking about, but address the rest of us and tell us what it's been like in the United States, in Canada. And Mika, I'm going to start with you. Tell us what it's been like in Israel.
The French have this tendency to divide their history into 5 periods. The second is French Republic, the third French Republic, now they're the fifth French Republic. If we consider and investigate Israel's history through those lenses, so I think we would all agree, Israel, till now, we've had 2 Israeli republics. The first Israeli Republic was between 1948 to 1977. That was the first Israeli Republic. The second Israeli Republic was between 1977, and I think we're still in the second Israeli Republic. The first Israeli Republic was founded by David Ben-Gurion. The second, 77, by who? Menachem Begin. The first Israeli, and they're very different versions of Israel. The first Israeli Republic, the ethos was socialism. The second Israeli Republic, the ethos was capitalism. The pride of the first republic was the kibbutz. The pride of the second Israeli Republic is the startup nation. The first Israeli Republic was very secular. The second is more traditional. The first is very Ashkenazi. The second is more diverse, more Mizrahi involved. What was the moment that put an end to the first Israeli Republic and gave birth to the process that led to the foundation of the second Israeli Republic? The Yom Kippur War. Now, the Yom Kippur War has a pattern, has a structure. It starts with the failure of the intelligence community that led to a surprise attack, that led to the army in the beginning, especially the Air Force, not functioning in the first 48 hours of the war. Then there was shock and panic. Moshe Dayan famously, and this is the third day of the war, holds his head and says, Churban habayit hashlishi, meaning the state of Israel is going down. He was afraid of that. And then there was recovery. Massive, impressive recovery that led to a tremendous victory in the north. The IDF pushed the Syrians out of the Golan Heights and then entered Syria. And that was in the north. In the south, it's more ambivalent. An ambivalent victory in the south. The Egyptians had forces in Sinai in the end of the war, but we had our forces led by Arik Sharon on the other side of the Suez Canal. I hope you're hearing what happened here. Because 50 years and one day later, that pattern repeated itself. Just with one difference. Everything was on steroids. Everything was bigger. The failure of the intelligence community was a greater failure. The surprise was a greater surprise. The dysfunctionality of the Israeli military in the first 24, 48 hours, especially the Air Force, was greater. But also, the recovery was more impressive. And in the north, pagers, Hezbollah, Syria, massive, absolute victory in the north. In the south, ambivalent victory. We've just relived the pattern, the structure of the Yom Kippur War with one difference. It was stronger, it was bigger, everything on steroids. Here's my question. The Yom Kippur War was an earthquake in Israel. It shaked Israel. Israelis changed. It put an end to the first Israeli Republic, and it created a chain of events that led to the birth of the second Israeli Republic. This war, which is greater than the Yom Kippur War, is an earthquake in Israel. It's changing Israel. It's transforming Israel. And our job and our mission is for this moment to lead to the birth of the third Israeli Republic. The Israelis that will form the third Israeli Republic are the Israelis, this great generation, that were witnessing October 7th. And they saw at that moment of October 7th, when the state of Israel didn't protect its civilians, didn't save its citizens. And at that moment, this generation stood up. And when Israel didn't save Israelis, Israelis saved Israel. That's the generation. And I want to share with you, and with this I'll end, because this is something that North American Jews have to understand. A new temperament being born in Israel, growing in Israel. A new awareness is growing in Israel among this young, great generation. And that is, this generation doesn't feel that it's the inheritors of the project called Israel. They are the founders. They are the founding fathers and mothers of the third Israeli Republic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika. Richard, especially sitting south of the border, it's been very hard to know what to make of what has been happening in Canada these last 2 years and where it is today relative to the respect to the Jewish community. What are your thoughts?
So thank you for having us. Mika said that October 7th changed Israel. I think it changed Canadian Jewry as well. 4 points, briefly. One is the fact that, a primer on Canadian Jewry. It is the third biggest diaspora community in the world after the US and in Israel. But yet we're 400,000 people out of 43 million Canadians. So we're less than 1%. So strong diaspora community, and yet relatively small compared to Canada. Two, the Canadian Jewish community, Canada is a product of compromise. First between French and the English, and you can hear from my accent and my weird turns of phrases where I stand on that divide. But then after wave of immigration, we went from biculturalism to multiculturalism. And it allowed Canadian Jews to flourish. There was never pressure for Canadian Jews to choose between a strong Jewish identity and a strong Canadian identity. And it allowed Jews to build strong institutions. It allowed Jews to have a high level of cohesiveness. The level of intermarriage is relatively low. The mastery of Hebrew is high. 8 out of 10 Canadians have visited Israel. More than 90% of Canadians believe in the rights of Israel to exist as a Jewish state. So Canadian Jews have a strong Jewish identity, a strong Canadian identity, and there was never a pressure to choose between those two. And yet, October 7 changed us. For the first time in generations, Canadian Jews have felt othered. Synagogues have been firebombed. Jewish schools have been shot at. Jewish activities on campus have been invaded by rioters. And this is day after day after day. And some say that the promise of Canada has been broken. There's a lot of work to do.
Sarah, you get to represent the largest diaspora Jewish community in the world. What are your thoughts?
So, I think that since October 7th, but really before then, there have been huge shifts in America on how people think about Jews and Israel. And I think that is especially true of young people. So we are now wrestling with a new, I think, generational divide here. And I think that's particularly true in that social media is now our source of media. And this, it used to be that the media you got in America was American media, and it was pretty mainstream. It generally didn't express extreme anti-Israel views. You had to go to a pretty weird bookstore to find global media and fringe media. But today, we have social media, which is a global medium. Right? Its algorithms are shaped by billions of people worldwide who don't really love Jews. And so while in the 1990s, a young person probably wasn't going to find Al Jazeera or someone like Nick Fuentes, today those media outlets find them. They find them on their phones. It's also this increasingly post-literate media, less and less text, more and more videos. So you have TikTok just smashing our young people's brains all day long with video of carnage in Gaza. And this is why so many of us can't have a sane conversation with younger Jews, because anything that we try to say to them, they are hearing it through this wall of carnage. So I want to give data and information and facts and arguments, and they are just seeing in their minds carnage, and I sound obscene. And I think, unfortunately, the very smart, bet that we made on Holocaust education to serve as anti-Semitism education, in this new media environment, I think that is beginning to break down a little bit. Because Holocaust education is absolutely essential, but I think it may be confusing some of our young people about anti-Semitism because they learn about big, strong Nazis hurting weak, emaciated Jews. And they think, oh, anti-Semitism is like anti-black racism, right? Powerful white people against powerless black people. So when on TikTok all day long they see powerful Israelis hurting weak, skinny Palestinians, it's not surprising that they think, oh, I know, the lesson of the Holocaust is you fight Israel. You fight the big, powerful people hurting the weak people. That's not how the Holocaust happened, right? We all know that. We know that it happened because the Germans insisted that the Jews, 1% of the population, were responsible for all their problems, just like people insist that Israel, the size of New Jersey, is responsible for all the world's problems today. But that's not really what you take away from Holocaust education. You take away the images of power, powerless. And you also don't really learn about Islamist anti-Semitism and Soviet anti-Zionism, which is so much of what I'm seeing, especially on campus with young people today. And I think that zooming back right now, I think American Jews are kind of wrestling with a category that our ancestors in Europe made 250 years ago, where as we transitioned to modern nation states and they wanted to get secular jobs, go to secular universities, they kind of had to reimagine Judaism to fit in. Right? You couldn't just be a Jew. You needed to be like a French person of the Jewish persuasion, a German of the Jewish faith. So we kind of reimagined Judaism as a Protestant-style religion, which, look, it worked really well for us, 250 years, very successful. The problem is we're not just a religion, right? We can all reject every aspect of Jewish religion. We're still Jews, nor are we a race or an ethnicity. Jews are all different races and ethnicities. We are a nation, civilization, tribe, peoplehood, but most of all, we're a family. And so if you are a young person raised in America who thinks Judaism is a Protestant-style religion, then the 7 million Jews in Israel are merely your co-religionists. So like, if my co-religionists, I look at them, and if they're not practicing my religion of social justice and certain prophetic values, then what do I have to do with them? It would be like telling a mainline, very progressive Protestant in Berkeley, California, you have to care about that Pentecostal in Brazil. It doesn't make sense. But that's a category error, right? The 7 million people in Israel, they are not my co-religionists, they are my siblings. But I think if you think of them as merely your co-religionists, it's very easy to slide into anti-Zionism. You don't necessarily have that connection to them. And I have to say, I think to conclude, it's becoming increasingly clear that the kind of contentless, bagel and lox, Jewish mother joke identity that many American Jews have, it just doesn't cut it anymore. When your Jewish identity is a big empty void with a few ethnic jokes rattling around in it, it will be filled by what is around you. And if what is around you is anti-Semitism, you will be helpless to fight back. If someone tells you that the Jewish God is violent and vengeful and Judaism is a legalistic, unloving religion, and you know nothing about Jewish tradition, what will you say? Tikkun olam? It's not a great answer. If they say that Israel is a genocidal, racist state, and you know nothing about Jewish history or Israel, we're going to be like, I like Seinfeld. It doesn't work. We need to know our Jewish story in a way that when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, I didn't really. I could get away with that identity. Young people who have that empty Jewish identity today, it is being filled by anti-Semitism, and we need to give them the content to protect them.
So I love this panel, not only because they're all so smart, but they're actual rule followers. You answered the question that I asked you, reflecting on the countries in which you live. Now I want to ask you the opposite question. Is there a common narrative among the global Jewish people that is emerging, or, as some have argued, are we growing farther apart? Who wants to go first?
Me and Sarah had this conversation behind the scenes.
Share it with us.
Okay. It seems to me now this is a very Israeli-centric perspective, if that's a word. And that is, it seems to me, Israel is standing in front of a historic opportunity. That doesn't mean we're going to grab the opportunity. It doesn't mean we're going to rise with the opportunity. But there's a big opportunity. American Jewry seems like, and I understand also Canadian Jewry seems like, they're standing in front of a massive crisis. It doesn't mean they'll collapse. But there's a crisis here, and there's a great crisis in Israel, obviously, but there's also an opportunity. And I want to explain something about the opportunity in Israel today. The Israelis that Israel didn't save them, but they saved Israel. That generation, that great generation, their awareness looks like this. When they looked at the top, at Israel shel Mala, how do you translate that? Israel from above. The systems from above. They see something lazy, dysfunctional, and many times corrupt. When they look at the bottom, at grassroots Israel, the fighters, the warriors, the NGOs, they see something else. If from the top we see division, at the bottom we see unity. From the top we see egoism, like I come before me. For them it's country first, it's altruism. We see a great generation. Now, the opportunity is like this. Here's a question in Israel right now, after this war, we're in a juncture in history, and here's the question. Is everything that's not healthy on the top, will it trickle down to the bottom? That's possible. That could happen. We see that happening. But there's an alternative. That what's healthy in the bottom will make it up to the top. That's also a possibility. That's the opportunity. This great generation is the opportunity. It won't become overnight. The Third Israeli Republic won't be born within a year. It took, by the way, after Yom Kippur, how many years did it take for the Second Israeli Republic to be born? 4 years. It's a process. But that's the opportunity we need to invest in Israel. We have a shared challenge. American Jews have to face this crisis. Israeli Jews, if they won't grab the opportunity, there'll be an even deeper crisis.
So I think he was pointing at you when he said we have a shared crisis, Sarah. Is there a shared solution?
You know, it's funny, I do think so. And I was actually speaking to a bunch of Israelis explaining my theory about, in the 1800s in Europe, we kind of ripped the beating heart out of Judaism in order to become more like Christians. So all of our post-biblical texts, which contain 2,500 years of our profound, radical, transformational wisdom, and this Israeli kept interrupting me. And he was like, that happened to us too. I'm like, no, it didn't. Shh. And he's like, no, that happened to us too. I'm like, stop. And then I realized, actually, if you read the early anti-Zionist thinkers, they're very similar to the reformers in their disdain for Jewish religion, for this sort of superstitious rabbis getting us in trouble. Ugh, leave this behind, right? We're forming a new kind of Jew. And as soon as I made that connection, I thought, like, oh, we've both had this tragedy of transitioning to modernity, which is the loss of our texts, the loss of what Amos Oz and Fania Al-Salzberger call our text line. They say ours is not a bloodline, it is a text line. And I actually think this is part of the solution. This is something that every Jew on the planet shares. Our texts, our wisdom, no matter how you are practicing, we are all practicing from this body of knowledge. And I think we have a tremendous opportunity to mine that substance, to return to that substance, to find that wisdom, to enrich not just ourselves, but the world. That has always been our value proposition. I mean, you're welcome for democracy, human rights, the idea that all human beings are in the divine image. Like, these are the great ideas that Jewish tradition has offered the world. And I think returning to our text and our substance is something that can unite us all as Jews and will be good not just for us, but for humanity.
So Mika, yes, a crisis in Canada. And yet, let me tell you what I see. I see for the first time Jewish union members and saying, you know what? I see this toxicity in unions and we're going to organize, we're going to fight back from the inside. I'm seeing Jewish parents fighting anti-Semitism at the school board levels and say, you know what? We're going to do it ourselves and we're going to get elected at the parents' council. We're seeing Jewish lawyers saying, you know what? There's so much stuff we can do. We have so much knowledge and we're going to organize and we're going to fight back. I'm seeing Jewish doctors, and we're seeing bizarrely so much anti-Semitism in the medical profession and saying, you know what, we're going to organize. And what I'm asking Federation, because in Canada, the Federation is really the cornerstone of our Jewish organization life, asking, this is a Canadian delegation, by the way. They're saying, we don't want you to do the job for us. To quote Churchill, give us the tool and we will not finish the job, but do the job. And that is an amazing change. And that, despite the crisis, and despite the fact that 70% of religiously motivated hate crimes in Canada target Jews, that gives me hope because Jews are rolling up their sleeves and saying, we will not let them win. This is our country. This is our society. We belong here.
So, listening to you, Mika, did you want to add something at that point? No.
I want to think out loud, but about
okay.
about
I'm gonna jump in there. Listen,
okay. Go for it.
I was thinking at the beginning how lucky the audience is to have you on the panel, but in this last round of questions, I'm thinking about how lucky you are to have this audience. These are the leaders of all across North America and Israel sitting here who already know each other. They work together in common cause to address the issues and the challenges of the day. And they're going to be here the next 2 days, and they're going to think about whatever it is that you tell them they should be thinking about and they need to work on. What is your advice about how we can individually and collectively work together to address the challenges or meet the opportunity that you've all described that we have for the global Jewish people. Now you can go, Mika.
Zionism was an idea of Theodor Herzl saying, he saw the idea of nationalism in Europe. He saw that idea, the family of nations. It's a universal idea. He saw the problem of anti-Semitism, and he said, hey, that's a universal solution for a Jewish problem. That was Zionism. Marrying a European idea, a universal idea, to solve a Jewish problem. I think the next generation of Zionism is the other way around. The next generation of Jewish conversation needs to be the other way around. Not how do we find universal solutions for Jewish problems, but how do we find Jewish solutions for universal problems? And God knows we have problems. And the number one problem the world is suffering from today, I want to argue, is political polarization. Political polarization, by the way, it's a bigger problem than global warming because we can't solve global warming if we don't live in the same reality, if we can't work together. By the way, we can't solve any problem if we can't work together, which means that political polarization is the source, is the mother and father of all problems today. And how do you heal political polarization? The alchemy of moving from fighting to arguing. You know who developed that technology of that? Moving from arguing to, from fighting to arguing, that was the Talmud. That was Jewish innovation. In the Second Temple, the sects were fighting with each other. Yochanan ben Zakkai, the sages, they create the Mishnah, the Talmud. That was a process of healing polarization. That could be, if we could understand that number one problem of the world is polarization, that is a universal problem that has a Jewish solution. And by the way, it would be helpful if Jews in Israel will practice the Talmudic.
A couple of years ago, I was reading about that Supreme Court case where the football coach, was praying with his football players, Christian players, on the 50-yard line. And the Supreme Court actually held in favor of the coach. They said that was fine. And my first reaction was, good. And then I was like, oh God, no, that's not good. But I was actually imagining a Jewish kid standing separately, watching his classmates all praying to Jesus, and just knowing, like, nope, that's not what I do. And I don't want that kid to feel bad. I don't want a Muslim or Hindu or atheist kid to feel bad. And at the same time, I think that to be a Jew is to be different. And to be different is to be uncomfortable. And comfort is really not the core mission in the world for Jews. The core Jewish mission in the world is to create a society that is the exact opposite of ancient Egypt. That's our mission. We've been doing it for thousands of years now, and I think that we in America have focused so much on comfort. Of course we have, which I want everyone to be comfortable in this country. I want no one to feel like a guest. It's all our country. And you know what? I don't think feeling uncomfortable at the 50-yard line is the worst thing, because to be a Jew is to be different. And I think leaning into our difference, embracing our difference, our values, our wisdom, I think if that makes us a little bit uncomfortable, that's not really the worst thing in the world.
Wow. Tough acts to follow. Eric, we can organize, we can mobilize, we can advocate. Yes. But nothing can replace Jews with our heads held high, buttressed by our sense of Jewish values, informed by our Jewish tradition, as both of my co-panelists said, and knowing that we have in our toolbox every single tool we need to face every challenge that is in front of us, and to make sure that the Jewish future is healthy in Israel and in North America.
I just want to say that you are lucky to have this audience, because if there's any audience that understands why we need unity over polarization and why we need to respect the arguments of both sides, it is this audience. You already saw it on the stage earlier this evening with Scott Jennings and Rahm Emanuel. You're going to see it in the plenaries that are going to come up and all of the featured sessions. This is the place where we can begin to end that polarization and begin to build the future that the three of you have all described. Please join me in thanking Richard Marceau, Mika Goodman, and Sarah Hurwitz.
Thank you. Got to do that again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now it's my extraordinary pleasure to welcome for the first time on our stage at the 2025 General Assembly, the incredible Senior Rabbi of Central Synagogue and our scholar in residence, Rabbi Angela Buchdahl.
Ve'ela toldot. These are the generations. This is how this week's Torah portion begins. And to look around this room is to see the generations of our people arrayed from federations and synagogues, Jewish institutions from across North America, representing every denomination, every age group, every background, every ideology. These generations represent the strength and the beauty of our people in the wider Jewish communal landscape. How powerful it is to be together, to talk as honestly and as bravely and as boldly as we will need to meet this moment for North American Jewry. Our Torah portion picks up this week from the story of the first Jews, Abraham and Sarah, and continues with the next generation, the first Jewish child. As you know, Isaac didn't have it easy. He had that near sacrifice his father made on his life, and then a famine in the land which caused him to leave his home and to become a stranger once again. But Isaac is blessed, and his flocks increase, and he has great abundance. Unfortunately, his success drives his neighbors to envy him and sabotage him, filling in all the wells that his father Abraham had dug. By cutting off his source of water, they were cutting off his sustenance, his roots, his very livelihood. Now, the Midrash teaches that Abraham's wells symbolize all the spiritual teachings and moral standards that Abraham had brought into the world: clarity about God, justice, kindness, ethical monotheism. So how does Isaac respond to this challenge from his hostile neighbors? They're filling in his father's cisterns. He goes back to the wells and he begins digging. He digs deep until they flow with water once again, and he restores the names that his father gave to them. His actions not only honor his ancestors, but they ensure the physical and spiritual survival for future generations as well. We are, as you've heard many times today, at an inflection moment of great challenge and opportunity. There are wells that our ancestors dug here that have sustained North American Judaism, a robust ecosystem of Jewish institutions, schools and synagogues, camps and JCCs, federations and agencies. They forged an incredibly strong mutual bond with our brothers and sisters in Israel and in Jewish communities across the world. And they fought for and protected civic values like free speech and the separation of church and state here, which have enabled the most exceptional Jewish flourishing in our history. Now, we know there are those right now who are trying to fill in those wells, which our ancestors labored to create. But those well springs are essential. Our tradition said they flowed with Maim Chaim, with living waters, and indeed they have been the source of our Jewish security, our thriving, and our lives here in North America. So we too, we must redig those wells. We can and we will restore and strengthen our Jewish communal organizations, which gather us from our sects and our silos and unite us in common cause. We will dig deep to access the living waters of Torah, and renew our engagement with Jewish learning and make sure that that next generation understands the rich inheritance that they have been gifted. We will restore our names that our ancestors gave and use them proudly: Zionist, homeland, chutzpah, Jew. We might feel like we're more of a stranger than we have felt in many generations in North America. I know it is certainly the most uncertain terrain I have experienced as a rabbi. But remember, even in moments when the landscape appears bleak and dry, The living waters never disappeared. They were just below the surface. Like Isaac, we must dig deep and know that the source of our strength undergirds us at all times, available whenever we can tap into it. Our tradition was built for crisis, and we know how to turn it into possibility. Eile Toldot, you are the generations gathered here to redig the wells of our ancestors. What a blessing to share in this project with all of you together over the next few days. Thank you. And now, can I invite you to honor our countries that we come from, the American, Canadian, and Israeli national anthems. Please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. קולות בלבב פנימה, נפש יהודי הומיה, ולפתי מזרח קדימה, עין לציון צופיה. עוד לא אבדה תקוותנו, התקווה בת שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו.
עוד יש מפרש לבן באופק, מול ענן שחור כבד, כל שנבקש לו יהי. ואם בחלונות הערב אור נרות החג רועד, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי.
אם המבשר עומד בדלת, אין מילה טובה בפיו, כל שנבקש לו יהי. אם נפשך למות שואלת מפריחה ומאסיף, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי.
ואם פתאום מזרח מעופל על ראשנו אור כוכב, כל שנבקש לו יהי. אז תן שלווה ותן גם כוח לכל אלה שנאהב, כל שנבקש לו יהי.
בתוך שכונה קטנה מוצלת בית קט עם גג אדום, כל שנבקש לו יהי. זה סוף הקיץ, סוף הדרך, תן להם לשוב הלום, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש לו יהי.
תודה רבה.
This concludes today's plenary. Please proceed down the escalators to M4 for tonight's dinner reception. Enjoy your evening.